Let's Talk Money.
Welcome back. Here with us on Let's Talk Money. And this week we are talking about how to be safe and how we can spend responsibly this festive season. Safe, you just heard the bankers tell us about the tips that we need to keep in mind to prevent ourselves from falling prey to any kind of online transaction fraud. Now we have with us Mr. Raj Khosla, who's the founder and MD at My Money Mantra, to discuss the latter. How do we be prudent with our festive shopping? How do we not break our bank or basically burst our budget? Mr. Khosla, thank you so much for joining in. And that really is the key questions. Once we've answered the questions on safety, I don't know if people even think of Diwali budgeting or festive budgeting, but what's the way forward? What's the right approach, you think?
Well, in terms of budgeting, the right approach is how you think, right? So first and foremost, you do need to create a budget and then thereafter stick to your budget. Essentially, you have to avoid impulse buying. You need to make a shopping list and avoid peer pressure and people talking to each other and saying this is good, this is bad, need more of this. Be careful of the terms and conditions when opting for no-cost EMIs. With respect to hidden conditions to avoid any future surprises, and also check the return and refund policies before making any purchase. And like you already you shared with your viewers, how to be mindful of digital security while doing digital transactions, especially when discounts are like what you earlier said. In fact, what Manish said was that when discounts or any deal which is too good to be true. So you need to be careful about all of these items when you get into the festive season, I would say, and get a hold on your impulses, on your budget, on your plans. Be realistic and essentially go out and enjoy yourself. Don't create a problem for yourself going forward, as it were. So that's
as long as it's mindful spending, I guess that would be the right term that sums it up, right? So, Mr. Khosla, I think what people often grapple with this season is how do I fund the purchase? Now, whether it's a mobile phone, whether it is something for the house, whether it's a gift you're buying, a slightly higher value gift, whether you should use downright cash, whether you should do that purchase on a credit card, or whether you should take on the zero interest offer, or whether you should take the personal loan. And that's what we really want to understand, how to arrive at the funding decision and use each one of these instruments.
Well, the best way to get started is take one good hard look in the mirror and see what your own needs are, what your purpose is, why you're making this purchase, and therefore you'll get a much better idea of how, what source of funding or what route you should be taking in terms of whether it should be a personal loan or a credit card or a downright, just a down payment on cash purchase. Essentially, if it's a small item, a really small item, then I would recommend, go for just, pay the cash and purchase the item. If it's something a little bit larger, you could evaluate perhaps a credit card option, because that is more flexible. You can, you're not stuck like, for say 3 years or 2 years like you might be with a personal loan. You have the flexibility of paying all of it back maybe in a month or two. And if you get stuck really on your cash flow, to postpone it a little bit and maybe a somewhat prohibitive rate of interest, but you have the option of postponing the repayments. With a personal loan, I would say, go for a slightly bigger ticket item. It could well be, maybe part payment of a car or maybe a home improvement loan. And that is an item which is large enough, it warrants a personal loan and has a fixed EMI and a fixed term. And that would be cheaper than trying to fund it through a credit card. But, as far as affordability and repayment is concerned, it's really so personal that, you have to align it to your own budget and to your own debt to income ratio. You can't take on debt which is essentially more than 30 to 40% of your net disposable income. The minute you start hitting 60, 70%, that's a debt trap and it's a downward spiral. And you don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that's a good working number to keep in mind, that don't let your loans, all your loans put together, personal, housing, etc., don't let them cross 40% in terms of the total income that you have, the inflows that are coming in. Got that, Mr. Khosla. I think another question that a lot of customers grapple with is whether, let's say you're buying a mobile phone, right? I mean, and that the cost could be anything between 30,000 to 75,000, maybe even a lakh in cases. And the question is whether I should just swipe my debit card, do a straight cash purchase, not bother with the whole, paying the monthly cycle, etc., or whether I should look for a zero-cost EMI or a zero-interest EMI where my debit card or one of my bank cards will get involved. And this tends to get a little confusing. So if I have the money, should I just pay it off in cash? Or should I look at these zero-cost EMIs? What's the benefit? And are they really zero-cost?
Well, a good question to start with, because, the impulse is always, for people who have the money on hand is to say what you just did, Surabhi, in terms of, can I just pay it off and get on with my life? Can I just use a debit card? I would say take a pause, especially in this, in the festive period. At that point in time, you've got platforms, I won't take any names, but we all know who they are. They run huge sales, discounts, and offers. Also, the bank themselves on a particular credit card of a particular bank, there may be a good offer of a particular item. So also the manufacturer himself, can come up with saying that if it's an EMI-related scheme, it will end up costing, the consumer less. So you do need to do a little bit of research, and as opposed to the first instance of, let me just pay it off and get on with my life. I would rather recommend that, do research on what's available, A, on your own credit card, B, on some of the platforms that are offering discounts. And lastly, do not forget to calculate to say, some brands don't offer any upfront discount on a full cash purchase, but they do offer discounts on EMI transactions. This is in reverse. You would never really expect that. So you do need to perform a good amount of research before you take a final decision about whether to take EMI-based purchase or take a full cash-down purchase. It's not as simple.
Okay.
Just
okay. So do some homework, do some math, and then decide on that spend, and be mindful when you're going about that festive spending spree. All right, Mr. Khosla, those are very, very helpful tips. Thank you very much for joining us on the show this week and enlightening our viewers on smart spending this festive season.
Nice to be with you, Surabhi, and you have a great festive season. Enjoy the
You too. You too.
Bye-bye.
With that, it's a wrap on this episode. Thank you very much for being with us this week. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place.
Let's talk money